Coke cans could be harder to find as US tariffs on aluminum may soon take effect. The company's CEO says the drinks in the US are made by American workers in American factories, largely all with American inputs, and the same would be true if you took Brazil or anywhere else. It's a very profoundly operationally local business. Coca-Cola, one of the most iconic American brands with a global presence spanning more than a century, is now preparing to leave the United States. The dramatic decision comes in the wake of a sweeping economic policy shift under the newly elected President Donald Trump, whose administration has imposed aggressive tariffs on a broad range of trade partners. The move, touted as a step towards strengthening domestic industries and achieving economic self-sufficiency, has instead ignited a trade war. Major trading partners of the US have responded in kind, slapping retaliatory tariffs on American goods. The environment has become so economically hostile that Coca-Cola's leadership under CEO James Quincey has found it untenable to continue operating its global supply chain from within US borders. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The announcement sent shockwaves through the business world. Coca-Cola, headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia since its founding in the late 19th century, has long been a symbol of American entrepreneurial success and cultural influence. The red and white label, known in virtually every corner of the globe, has traditionally stood as a testament to American innovation, soft power, and global leadership in business. Its decision to relocate its operational base abroad underscores the severity of the current economic climate. It is more than a mere business strategy. It is a significant and symbolic shift that reflects the increasing difficulty multinational companies face when navigating an environment dominated by protectionist policies. The essence of Coca-Cola's operations lies in an intricate web of international supply chains, from agricultural ingredients like sugar and fruit extracts to aluminum cans, plastic bottles, marketing services, and machinery. These components crisscross borders many times before reaching consumers. Tariffs, especially broad, non-targeted ones, disrupt these flows, add layers of cost, and introduce unpredictability. For a company that thrives on efficiency, uniformity, and brand consistency, even small disturbances in the supply chain can have outsized impacts. But the recent trade policies have done more than disrupt. They have practically dismantled the economic framework that Coca-Cola has relied on for decades. In the weeks following President Trump's tariff declaration, the cost of key inputs surged. For example, aluminum used in billions of Coca-Cola cans annually became significantly more expensive due to both US-imposed import duties and retaliatory tariffs from major exporters like Canada and China. This surge had a direct impact on production costs. Equally critical was the spike in prices for imported sweeteners and flavorings sourced from Latin America and Asia. For example, aluminum used in billions of Coca-Cola cans annually became significantly more expensive due to both US-imposed import duties and retaliatory tariffs from major exporters like Canada and China. This surge had a direct impact on production costs. Equally critical was the spike in prices for imported sweeteners and flavorings sourced from Latin America and Asia. While Coca-Cola could attempt to absorb some of these costs, doing so indefinitely was not sustainable without a drastic drop in profits or price increases that could alienate price-sensitive consumers. James Quincey, facing mounting pressure from shareholders and global partners, was left with few viable options. Coca-Cola's business is global by nature. Operating from a country engaged in multiple tariff-based disputes simply placed the company at a competitive disadvantage. Other countries eager to attract global capital and multinational headquarters offered compelling alternatives. Lower production costs, favorable tax rates, and most importantly, access to open and cooperative trade regimes. In relocating abroad, Coca-Cola aims to protect its margins, maintain access to its markets, and preserve its reputation as a reliable supplier in a turbulent economic landscape. The implications of this decision are vast. On an economic level, the departure of such a high-profile company from U.S. soil represents a potential tipping point. Coca-Cola is not just a beverage company. It is a mammoth in the consumer goods sector, employing tens of thousands domestically and indirectly supporting millions through distributors, retailers, and service providers. Its exit could trigger a domino effect, encouraging other multinational firms to reconsider their own operations in the United States. When one of the country's flagship corporations decides it cannot function effectively within national policy constraints, the message to the business world is clear and concerning. There is also a symbolic dimension to Coca-Cola's departure. The brand has long served as an informal ambassador of American values, liberty, prosperity, and cultural openness. Its advertisements are often viewed as representations of American ideals adapted to resonate with global audiences. The sight of Coca-Cola pulling back from its homeland introduces a jarring contradiction. For foreign partners, it suggests that the United States is no longer the reliable economic partner it once was. For domestic audiences, it raises questions about the long-term viability of globalization under a protectionist regime. The realignment of Coca-Cola's headquarters and supply chain will also reshape geopolitical dynamics in the corporate world. The company must now navigate the political, cultural, and logistical challenges of establishing a new base of operations. Early reports suggest a preference for a European country with strong logistics infrastructure, trade agreements with multiple global markets, and political stability. Germany, the Netherlands, and Switzerland have all been mentioned as contenders. Relocating to any of these nations would provide Coca-Cola with better access to the European market, while also insulating it from the turbulence of U.S. trade policy. Domestically, the reaction to Coca-Cola's move has been mixed. Some political commentators and business leaders see it as a wake-up call, a signal that the cost of pursuing unilateral economic strategies can be steep and counterproductive. Others interpret it as a betrayal, accusing the company of abandoning American workers and interests in pursuit of profit. However, such critiques often overlook the complex and interdependent nature of modern commerce. Coca-Cola's business is not rooted in any single nation. Its survival and growth depend on its ability to operate efficiently across many. The logistics of leaving are formidable. Coca-Cola is intricately tied to the U.S., not just through its headquarters, but through its suppliers, bottling partners, and regulatory ecosystem. Dismantling that structure and recreating it elsewhere is no small feat. It involves everything from transferring corporate offices and IT infrastructure to renegotiating contracts, retraining staff, and forging new partnerships in foreign markets. But the company's decision to undertake such a massive endeavor underscores how serious the situation has become. This is not an opportunistic leap. It is a reluctant but necessary strategy for survival. Investors have reacted with cautious optimism. While the costs of relocating will be substantial in the short term, markets appear to recognize the long-term strategic logic. By moving its base to a country with stable trade policies and a more predictable economic climate, Coca-Cola is positioning itself to maintain growth and profitability in a challenging global landscape. Still, uncertainty lingers. How many other companies will follow suit? Will the Trump administration escalate or moderate its policies in response to corporate departures? And what will the economic and political fallout be for the millions of Americans whose livelihoods depend on companies with international reach within the broader business ecosystem? Coca-Cola's departure may trigger a realignment in strategic thinking. Companies may begin reassessing the benefits of remaining headquartered in the U.S. If access to global markets continues to be compromised by protectionist measures, Tech companies, automotive manufacturers, pharmaceutical firms, and even financial institutions may increasingly consider relocation as a strategic hedge. The ripple effects could extend into real estate markets, employment trends, and domestic supply chains. The regulatory implications are also profound. The United States has long incentivized companies to keep operations domestic through a mix of tax breaks, subsidies, and infrastructure support. Coca-Cola's departure could prompt lawmakers to re-examine these tools and consider whether they are sufficient or even relevant in an era of trade wars and economic nationalism. There may also be a renewed push for regional trade alliances that can counterbalance the effects of bilateral disputes. For instance, companies might look toward the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership (CPTP), or EU-based trade structures to achieve the market fluidity they once enjoyed under the World Trade Organization framework. Public perception is another key factor. American consumers have long taken pride in supporting homegrown brands. Coca-Cola has occupied a special place in that pantheon. Seeing it choose to relocate might lead to a sense of disillusionment or even anger, but it could also fuel a broader public debate about the role of business in society and whether government policy should prioritize economic nationalism or global integration. It's likely that this event will be cited in political campaigns and economic debates for years to come. The educational and research sectors may also feel the effects. Coca-Cola has been a major funder of academic partnerships, scholarships, and community development programs throughout the United States. A shift in its center of gravity to another country could mean that future investments are directed elsewhere. This potential decline in domestic philanthropic activity may have long-term consequences for institutions that have relied on Coca-Cola's support. In labor circles, the news has generated anxiety. Thousands of workers employed directly or indirectly through Coca-Cola's U.S. operations face an uncertain future. While the company has pledged to assist with transitions, job losses are inevitable. Labor unions are preparing for what could become a wave of corporate relocations, and there is growing pressure on federal and state governments to develop policies that can retain jobs in a globalized economy without resorting to isolationist measures. On the international stage, Coca-Cola's move may embolden countries advocating for freer trade. Nations that have resisted the US's turn toward tariffs may now position themselves as sanctuaries for global commerce. There's a strategic opening for countries to market themselves as stable, trade-friendly havens capable of supporting multinational corporations. In that context, Coca-Cola's relocation is not just an economic event. It's a geopolitical one with the potential to shift the balance of corporate influence away from Washington. Culturally, this moment marks the end of an era. Coca-Cola's story has always been intertwined with the American narrative. It accompanied soldiers in World War II, symbolized the American dream during the Cold War, and has been a fixture in American advertising and public life for generations. Its departure from the US alters that story. It reminds us that even the most deeply rooted companies must adapt to changing realities, and that national identity, while powerful, may not be enough to overcome economic imperatives. The long-term ramifications of Coca-Cola's decision will unfold over years, possibly decades. It may become a case study in business schools, a topic of political discourse, and a milestone in the history of global trade. While it remains to be seen how successful the transition will be, the very fact that it is happening signals a seismic shift in the global business environment. What was once unthinkable, an American icon leaving its home country, has now become reality. This opens the door to a wider array of institutional investors, including sovereign wealth funds and pension systems, that might previously have been hesitant to invest in US C-centric firms. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us what are your thoughts on Coca-Cola moving abroad after Trump's tariff plan. We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.